Gang, what's going on? We back with another video. I did take a couple of days off, but we back to it, and we're not gonna waste no time. So this video we're gonna be reacting to is from the YouTube channel Nerdstalgic, and it's gonna be talking about why 90s movies felt different. I think this is gonna be a good one because I was here for the 90s, and I gotta say, the movies in the 90s just hit different. They used to hit different. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Make sure you like, sub to the channel, and leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's go. I remember we had this on tape back in the day.
The 90s, the decade of bucket hats, extra wide pants, and chokers. Come to think of it, all of those fashion trends are currently back with a vengeance. But you know what doesn't feel like 1994 again? Movies. The films that are released today don't look, sound, or have anywhere near the artistic grasp of movies from the 1990s. But why is that?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
The 90s were a halcyon time. Studios presented films to the public that had depth and a diversity distinctly unlike what we have in the Cineplex today. And yet, the formula that was used to achieve these goals is being completely ignored.
Movie, Groundhog Day.
So why don't the studios today simply redo the playbook? What's stopping production companies from just trying to recapture that magic with—
Well, they tried that, or rather they are trying that, but it's not working. Like all of these reboots, they did Beetlejuice over, didn't hit. They did The Lion King, that didn't really hit. Aladdin live action was okay. It grew on me over time, but same thing. And then The Little Mermaid, I didn't even bother to get into that, regardless of who they had playing Ariel. It just did not hit. And that's because they're trying to use this CGI, and it doesn't give off the same emotion because in your subconscious, you know it's fake. It's not real. So, I mean, the thing with it, with animation movies, you already go into it knowing that it's animation, it's not real. So you don't have to worry so much about that. You're able to get off the expressions that you need in an animation movie. You can make them look mad, make them look sad. When I was watching that Little Mermaid movie, the live action, it didn't give that at all. Like Flounder didn't look like the Flounder in the original, obviously. But yeah.
An eye aimed towards a modern audience? Well, the answer is multifaceted, yet simple. But bluntly, it can't.
That's f***ing crazy, man.
A big reason that comes to mind is that the films that were given the green light didn't all fit into one budget class. Many of the movies that were made in the 90s were mid-budget affairs. Sure, you had your blockbusters and would-be cultural juggernauts, but you also had a healthy and robust middle class of filmmaking efforts. Films like Air Force One, Falling Down, or Pulp Fiction, their budgets weren't large, and that allowed the directors to take creative risks that would then potentially yield outsized rewards. They were allowed to have a vision, because the money at stake wasn't in the hundreds of millions. They were films that had something to say or said something familiar in an unconventional way. Pulp Fiction is almost literally just a collection of the most rote and familiar crime movie tropes repackaged and presented in a glossy fashion. And it won an Oscar. It's a movie that just flat out wouldn't be greenlit today. A connection of interwoven short stories, and there isn't any underlying IP? Forget about it.
Nah, man. I'm pretty far from okay.
And even if it did get made, it wouldn't have been a cultural juggernaut. It wouldn't have even got a theatrical release.
Yeah, you couldn't come out with a movie like this in this day and time. You know, everything nowadays is super sensitive and everybody is super woke. So a lot of the stuff that they was getting away with in the 90s, you're not getting away with that now.
It would have been dumped straight to Netflix, starring whatever actor is fresh off a box office hit. Yet another major contributing factor as to why 90s films feel different is that they were shot on actual film. That's right, the mechanisms of the industry.
That is another interesting point. They were shot on film. Like when you look at movies today, I was watching Black Panther yesterday, and that was a good movie. But you know most of that is CGI. It's not real, and they're shooting it digitally. It's not being shot on film. And obviously when shooting digital, you can afford to do a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? You can make a lot of mistakes basically and not have to worry about, because film is different. Like you really don't have but so much film that you can mess up before they're like, okay, So
industry felt different because the actual technical specifications were different. When you're shooting on film, it's an arduous process that informs the end result due to the restrictions it imposes on the process.
They just kind of pointed it at us, fired it up, and blew kerosene exhaust on us. It's not pleasant, I'll tell you that right now, but man, that wind does blow.
Not only are you only able to do a certain amount of takes before you're wasting money, but also
Right.
you can't shoot prolonged 20-minute takes because 35mm magazines can only hold a certain amount of film footage. Not to mention, the look of the film can't be matched. The grain, tiny scratches, and all the slight imperfections elevate the visuals to a place that feels like movie magic.
yeah, and that's why there was a huge surge in film photos over the last couple of years. Like film photography took off in like 2017, and a lot of film. I have two film cameras. I have two Yashica T4s, and those cameras are expensive, and film is expensive as well. But the feel that you get from film photos, like it just grabs you. See, when you take a digital photo, it's nothing. You just take the photo. If you don't like it, you'll delete it and take another one. But with film, you got to be a little bit more strategic and put a lot more thought into the photo, because you know once you take that photo, that's it. You only get 36 shots. So it was the same with film. Like you had to get it right within so many amount of tries. But it gave you that visual magic, you know what I mean?
Even fantastic modern films that are shot digitally just don't look as good. Look at this scene from Ex Machina. The scene is compelling, the special effects are fantastic, and the color grading is even done very well. But because the film is shot with a digital sensor, everything just has a flatness and lack of depth to it that every film shot in 1994 inherently had. During this time period, the independent studios were king. They ushered in nothing short of an artistic renaissance for the film medium. Movies made outside of the system aimed at adults were hugely successful. Slacker, Swingers, Good Will Hunting, and My Own Private Idaho. Films that were made by artists with a vision and then connected with a fan base, either slowly through becoming a
One of my favorite independent films is called Drive with Kadeem Hardison and Mark something. Brittany Murphy was in this movie too, but it's basically like a martial arts movie. It was kind of like, it was an independent film, but this was their stab at trying to like get into that like buddy action movie with like a black guy and an Asian guy. Like that was the first iteration of that, in my opinion. If you go back and watch that movie, it was a sick killer movie. My grandfather recorded it off TV when we had HBO, and I think you can actually watch it on YouTube. You could watch it on here, but it was a good film. It was a really good film, but it was independent. It wasn't through a major movie production company. But he's right though.
cult hit or through bombastic box office returns.
How do you like them apples?
They were so popular that most of the big legacy studios opened up production shingles to make movies like this. Fox had Fox Searchlight, MGM bought Orion, and of course Disney bought the granddaddy of them all, Miramax. Known for fundamentally reshaping American culture in the 90s, Miramax single-handedly launched the careers of directors like Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, and countless other indie auteurs. Studios like this and a robust film festival circuit created a direct pipeline that helped these individuals making personal films find their respective audiences. Every movie produced in the 90s benefited from this new ecosystem, whether that be directors who got their start in indie cinema and transitioned to the studio system, or the indie movies becoming cultural phenomena. Movies in the 1990s felt like they had more of an authorial perspective because directors and actors had more places to take their work. Bidding wars could happen,
And then also, let me interject and throw in there, we still had a lot of ideas that we could cook up. You know, we hadn't really reached the far depths of our brain yet. You know, we still had a lot of stuff to put on the table. Now we done seen everything. We've seen every sci-fi movie, every horror film, every buddy comedy, romantic comedy movie. We've seen them all. So there's nothing really that they got that they can cook up in Hollywood anymore. So that's why they got to reboot all of this old catalog to get people interested in going back to the movies. You know what I'm saying? 50 Cent says something to Wallow and what's his name? He was telling them that you should start a series instead of doing a movie, because if you do a movie, you only got about 30 seconds to keep their attention, and then you got to make your money back in 2 weekends. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you do a series, people are going to be itching to see what happens next. So you stretch it out instead of doing like one big movie, because you got to think about the budget, the actors, and then you got to get a big name in order to get people to come to the movies. And it's like, can you even afford that? You know what I'm saying? So
Artists could gain leverage so they could ensure that the contracts they were signing granted them rights such as final cut, a share of the top gross, or control over the marketing of the film. Do these things happen today? Yes, but they're few and far between. A contributing factor to this is that fame functions differently today than it did in the 90s. Movie stars don't really exist in the way that they did. How many Marvel movies does it take to get the green light on their passion project? For every Rian Johnson who played the Star Wars game and then got to leave to make a trilogy of Knives Out movies, you have an army of creatives like Jonathan Liebsman or Louis Leterrier, journeyman filmmakers
know
trapped
these
on the
dudes.
hamster wheel of IP farming. Most creators today get trapped in that machine and they can't break free. In the 90s, that machine literally didn't exist. Look at Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Shang-Chi and then was originally slated to take over the Avengers Kang Dynasty before that movie got canceled. He literally didn't have anywhere else to go. Sure, he did a Disney Plus streaming series, but now he's back directing the new Spider-Man, which is either very bleak or an endorsement of his ability to play the game. Back in the day, studios weren't greenlighting things exclusively on the project's viability to jumpstart a franchise. Many of the films that were released were small, intimate, personal stories about people struggling with everyday problems. The romantic comedy genre was massive in the 1990s.
Yep.
Theatrical comedies were huge. Even just dramas
Big
about
Daddy,
people
Little
standing
Nicky,
in a
those
room
type of
talking
movies.
made hundreds of millions of dollars. Tom Cruise jump-started an entire genre of movies about lawyers. That just doesn't happen now. The Firm? That's going straight to streaming. A Few Good Men? That doesn't even get made.
You can't handle the truth!
nope.
That's not to say it was all sunshine and
That
roses.
definitely
back in
would've
the
went
day.
to
The 90s
Netflix,
were
that
bleak
Batman
in their
movie.
own specific way.
But I love that
Stories,
Batman
largely
movie.
speaking, needed to be grounded. Anything with a genre bend needed to be validated from an external perspective. Video games, comics, and anything even remotely regarded as nerdy was extremely hard to get off the ground. And when it did, it needed to be clad in black leather and feature a propulsive techno soundtrack. The landscape in some ways is a 90s kid's ultimate daydream, and yet, too much of a good thing is objectively too much of a good thing. It's alienating to admit, but the movie industry was in a better place in the 90s. The movie industry needs diverse and disparate components in order to have a healthy life cycle. We need directors with vision and autonomy, movie stars with taste and power, and production companies that are willing to take risks and attempt to push culture further. These days, it feels like we only have monolithic empires attempting to strip mine culture for blood and treasure. The techniques, industry apparatus, and level of exploration that was happening in the 90s objectively yielded more interesting and thought-provoking work. To say nothing of the fact that the movies just literally looked better because they were shot on film. Today, there's a constant alarm bell ringing that the theatrical experience is dying. And you know what? It is in trouble. Aside from the rare standout of a Nolan or PTA film, the production is inferior, and on-demand viewing has trained people to stay at home. Why did the films produced in the 90s feel different? Because they were different. They were high quality, less cynical, and more authorial. Does that mean that utter dreck didn't squeeze through? Of course not.
Make up your melon!
But the boneheaded studio moves or lowest common denominator plays pale in comparison to everything that's just routinely happening throughout the filmic landscape today. Film, like culture, is elastic. It's going to wax and wane depending on a myriad of factors. The real question ahead of us isn't even a qualitative one, it's can we survive this? Will the pendulum of culture swing back the other direction? Will we have a new generation of people falling in love with the movies and ushering a second golden age?
That
Or
depends.
are we all doomed to just click thumbs up on an infinite playlist of existential mukbangs? Only time will tell. So, what do you think? Are we in a better or worse place than the 90s? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, please like and subscribe for more nerdastalgic videos just like this.
All right, y'all. So that's going to be the end of the video. Yeah, I would say that there's some other factors in that as well. I mean, you think about the way people consume media now. Everything is in the palm of your hands. Back in the 90s, there was no having access to movies in your pocket on the go. That was unheard of. Probably never would have thought that would happen. So there was always this buildup and anticipation to go to the movies to see the next movie. You know, whatever movies went straight to video, you go to Blockbuster, rent the movie, or you would catch it on television. You know, channel 11, they used to have like their Sunday action movies, or they used to have that going on back in the day. Or if you had cable and you paid for premium channels, you would catch a movie on there. So just getting people interested in going back to see a movie, it takes a lot. And then with somebody like myself who grew up in the 90s, went to the movies and saw movies done in film, and just it grabbing you like that, you don't really get that, really. You know, I went and saw the movie Greenland, and it was good. It was a good movie. But just knowing that most of that stuff is not real. And I get it. It's to cut costs. You got to think about the budget. It's just easier to just throw something in the CGI engine and let it generate the water and the mountains and just the landscape. And then you just use a green screen to just camouflage it. Most of the time when these actors are acting, they're just doing it in front of a green screen. So it does kind of kill the vibe a bit, but you just go along with it because you know that's just what it is nowadays. But it's going to take a lot to get movies back to what they were. Like I said, you're going to have to get some creative minds in there, which is not going to be easy because, like I said, we've seen everything. Unless you can put some crazy plot twists on a lot of the already done movies to make people interested and wanting to go see it, that's the only way I see it coming back, where movies have that feel like the 90s and even the early 2000s. But y'all let me know down in the comments what y'all think about that and what you feel is necessary to get movies back interesting like they used to be. So like, sub to the channel. It's your boy Robbie, and we out.